The world of serial killers, while disgusting, is also a strangely intriguing one, and while there may be many serial killers who haven't been caught yet, the scarier notion, in my opinion, is that some of those who have been caught are today walking free among us. So, join us as we count 10 terrifying serial killers living free right now.
Number 10.
Pedro Lopez. The monster of the Andes is how they refer to this man. Pedro Lopez is thought to have killed over 300 girls across South America. At a young age, Lopez was incarcerated for stealing cars. Once he was released, he began preying on young girls. By 1978, Lopez claimed that he had killed over 100 girls in Colombia. After that, he moved to Ecuador, where he began killing about 3 girls a week. Lopez was arrested after a failed abduction and confessed to over 300 murders. However, the police only believed his unlikely story when a flash flood uncovered a mass grave that contained many of his victims. He was arrested in 1980 by the Ecuadorian government, only to be released 18 years later. Just an hour after this occurred, he was again arrested by the Colombian government, where he was committed to a hospital and freed 3 years later.
Number 9.
Mary Bell. By definition, a serial killer is a person who murders 3 or more people, meaning technically Mary Bell doesn't make this list. However, due to the special nature of her crimes, I had to include it on here anyway. Mary Bell became a murderer at the young age of just 10. In fact, it was just one day before her 11th birthday when she killed 2 young boys in cold blood. The first was a 4-year-old boy named Martin Brown. Bell is believed to have committed this murder on her own. She strangled the young boy in an abandoned house. Her second victim was a 3-year-old boy named Brian Ho, another strangling victim, but this time she had assistance from her 13-year-old friend Norma Joyce Bell. The pair took this murder one step further. They carved an N into the boy's chest, which was later changed to an M. They cut some of the boy's hair off, and finally they mutilated his genitals. Once they were caught, Norma was acquitted of all charges, while Mary was convicted of manslaughter. Mary spent the next 12 years in prison before being released at the age of 23. She now has 1 daughter and a grandchild.
Number 8.
Louis Van Schoor. A security guard and ex-policeman, Louis Van Schoor is believed to have killed more than 39 people in just a few years. Van Schoor's effective method was to respond to silent alarms at business premises and shoot the intruders with his 9mm pistol. He explained the deaths of the burglars by saying that he was only doing his job. Most of his victims were black men, suggesting his murderous rampage was influenced by race, although Louis Van Schoor has strongly denied these allegations. After some time, the police began to see that Van Schoor was doing slightly more than his job description required and arrested him for murder. He was then charged with 7 murders and 2 attempted murders and was sentenced to 20 years in jail. Van Schoor was released on parole after serving just 12 years of his 20-year sentence. It seems this murderous trend runs in the family though, as his daughter Sabrina is currently serving 25 years in prison for hiring a hitman to slit her mother's throat.
Number 7.
Bartolomeo Gagliano. While this man is currently serving his time, he's on our list as he's managed to escape from custody a grand total of 6 times so far. Bartolomeo Gagliano was sent to a criminal psychiatric ward in 1981 for stoning 1 prostitute to death and injuring another. However, Gagliano managed to escape in 1989 and committed 2 more murders. When he was caught, the infamous killer was sent back for psychiatric treatment. After his escape, he was granted a 2-day good behavior pass to see his sick mother. When Gagliano failed to return after his 2 days of freedom, a countrywide manhunt began. He was eventually captured, but not before shooting his girlfriend in the chin.
Number 6.
Issei Sagawa. Okay, fine, Issei Sagawa is not technically a serial killer either, but just listen to his story and let me know if you still don't think he's worthy of being on this list. For his entire life, Sagawa had always felt like an outcast, weak and ugly. Rather than doing the normal thing and trying to gain some self-confidence by joining a gym or playing sports, he instead decided to kill and eat one of his fellow classmates. On the night of June 11th, 1981, Sagawa invited René Hartwelt to his apartment for dinner, saying that he needed help translating some German poetry. When she arrived, Sagawa shot her in the neck with a rifle, after which he proceeded to eat her for the next 2 days, saying that he wanted to, and I quote, absorb her energy. Sagawa was eventually caught after trying to get rid of Hartveldt's body in a river, and was sentenced to be kept in a mental institution for the remainder of his life by a French judge. However, for some reason, Sagawa became a bit of a celebrity following the killing, and as a result, the French authorities decided to expedite him to Japan, where he was taken to Matsusawa Hospital and was declared sane and released back into the public. He has been a free man ever since and currently lives in Tokyo.
Number 5.
Karla Homolka. Karla Homolka is a Canadian serial killer who participated in the rape and murder of at least 3 women with her husband Paul Bernardo. The couple's first victim was Karla's youngest sister, Tammy. Paul had become obsessed with Tammy, so Karla decided it would be a great idea to offer her sister to her future husband. Karla would drug her younger sister and allow Paul to rape her while she was unconscious. Sadly, in December 1990, Tammy choked on her own vomit and died after Karla had drugged her with an animal tranquilizer. Karla and Paul then continued their murderous tendencies at least 2 more times until the pair were finally captured. Upon capture, Karla managed to convince prosecutors that she was a victim in everything and got a reduced prison sentence of 12 years, while Paul was sentenced to life in prison. Later on, videotapes were released of the couple's actions, showing that Karla was a willing participant. Karla was released on July 4th, 2005 and now goes by the name Liane Bordelais and lives in Guadeloupe with her husband and 3 children.
Number 4.
Nikolai Dzhumagaliev. For the purpose of my sanity, we'll just call this man Nikolai. So, Nikolai was a serial killer and a cannibal. He has apparently murdered at least 7 women between the years of 1979 to 1980. He also goes by the nickname Metal Fang due to the fact that he has white metal teeth. His first kill was a young peasant woman whose throat he slit and then proceeded to feast on her corpse for the next month until there was not much left of her. Nikolai would go on to murder 5 more women before he was finally arrested for accidentally shooting one of his colleagues. However, since he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, he was only sentenced for less than a year in a mental institution. Upon his release, he committed 3 more murders until he was arrested again after his 9th murder, where he invited a few friends to his home. How he had any friends, don't ask me. Instead of acting like the hospitable host, Nikolai killed one of his guests and began to dismember him in the next room. When the police arrived, they found Nikolai covered in blood. The police were so shocked that they allowed Nikolai to escape, only to be arrested the next day. Nikolai was put on trial once again, but due to his already diagnosed schizophrenia, he was sentenced to just 8 years in a closed clinic. So, where is he today? Well, it's a bit unclear. Some sources speculate that he's still in a mental institute today, while some say he's now a free man living with his relatives in Eastern Europe. Still, if he really is a free man now, he could be anywhere, like just down the road from you.
Number 3.
Juha Valjakkala. On July 2nd, 1988, Juha Valjakkala stole a bike. While this is a crime in itself, it's a fairly tame one, or rather it should have been. When the owner of the bike, Sten Nilsson, and his son Fredrik saw the man taking off with their bike, they chased after him and eventually cornered him in a nearby cemetery. Instead of just giving the bike back like a normal person might do, Juha shot and killed the father and son. To make matters worse, Juha killed Nilsson's wife as well. He was arrested a week later, labeled a psychopath and sentenced to life in prison. However, during his sentence, Juha managed to escape 4 times. After his 4th successful escape, the Finnish courts paroled him after serving 19 years of his life sentence. After he was released, Juha stole a car and was sent back to the slammer, only to be released on parole shortly after.
Number 2.
Arnfinn Nesset. Arnfinn Nesset may have been the worst nurse in the history of nurses. He was a former Norwegian nurse, a nursing home manager, and eventually a convicted serial killer. He is believed to have killed up to 138 people over his career, but he was only charged with the murders of 22 of his former patients. In 1981, there was a number of very suspicious deaths occurring at the nursing home where Nesset was working at the time. When the police questioned him about these deaths, Nesset Nesset confessed to the murders of 27 of his patients. He claimed to have killed them by injecting them with succinylmethonium chloride, a muscle relaxer. He was convicted of poisoning 22 patients and sentenced to 21 years in prison, which was the absolute maximum sentence in Norway at this time. Nesset was released after just 12 years due to good behavior and put under supervision for the following 10 years. Today, he is living in an unknown location under an unknown name. Don't worry too much about him though. Today, he is 78 years old and unlikely to be a threat to anyone. Although I guess no one can ever be truly certain.
Number 1.
The Ciudad Juarez serial killer. So, we end our list with a mystery person. Perhaps in one of the most notorious and ongoing killing sprees in history, this involves the violent deaths of hundreds of women and girls since 1993 in the northern Mexican region of Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, a border city across the Rio Grande from the US city of El Paso, Texas. As of 2005, the number of murdered women in Ciudad Juarez since 1993 is estimated to be more than 500. 1/3 of these killings are so similar on a forensic level, it's believed to be the work of a single evil mastermind. To this day, no conclusive convictions have been made. Who this person is and where they might be stays a mystery for now.